Hello everyone, hope you all are doing great and welcome to this new video series on matched geometry and matched geometry animations. With WWDC 2020, Apple introduced many new features for iOS 14, and along with various new features and goodies that they added, they also made a lot of improvements in SwiftUI framework itself with the introduction of SwiftUI 2.0. One of the most refreshing feature that was added in SwiftUI 2.0 was matched geometry effect. Reason this feature is most interesting and refreshing um, because what we also know as hero animation has always been one of the most challenging transition to put in place, but it's one of the most seeked interaction to provide user a better user experience, to give user a context and keep that context between the transitions. So in SwiftUI 2.0, this is now possible with just few lines of code. Um, let's talk about the hero animation a little bit. It's what is known as hero animation transitioning from one state to the other is one of the most common transition you would see in iOS apps. And basically, the transition itself states a view travels or transitions from one state to the other, maintaining the state, the context itself. For example, if you tap a photo actually sort of zooms in place, and it's displayed on the screen with more information at the bottom. That example we all have seen, and it's actually reason it's important because, or reason it's more delightful because it actually keeps the user's context, so user would know which photo they tapped and which the same photo that's actually zoomed in and displaying more information. And when they click back on the photo, it actually snaps back on displays. App Store actually uses this, has been using this for a very long time, where when you select an item within the App Store, it actually zooms in that item and displays more information. So all these are examples of matched geometry effect, or otherwise known as hero animation. Okay, so in this video series, we are going to be starting off with a simple example of how the animation works. So we're gonna see how animation, how you can create a simple animation, then convert it into a matched geometry effect. So for example, let me show you what we are going to do. So first we're going to start with this kind of view where you can have a simple animation of swapping between two circles. So I'm tapping on these circles, and basically they're swapping, and they're changing the colors, right? We're going to take this example and we're going to convert it into a matched geometry effect. So now you can see how the swap is actually happening. If you notice, the circles are going over each other and taking each other's place, right? So that is the matched geometry effect. And then from there, we're going to build a slightly complex example where we're going to show an item. So you can think of this as a list of items that are being displayed on the table. And then when you tap on that item, more information is displayed about that item. So if you notice, as soon as we actually click back, it snaps back on the place. And this is what I was telling you about, keeping the context. So in this imaginary large list of items. When you tap on this particular item, you know that this is the item that you have clicked on and you're viewing the information about, because it sort of zooms in place and shows you that yes, this is what the photo I tapped on, this is the title that was listed there, and I can read more information about this. And as soon as I tap back, it actually snaps back in place. Okay, so that's going to be the third example that we're going to create. And then we're going to take this a step further, and we're going to create a gallery with match geometry animation. And in this gallery, you're going to have a space for selected photos and a gallery where you can select photos from. And basically what's going to happen when you choose a photo is going to snap into the selected space. So notice how the transition is going. So let me click back, so it's going to basically come back to its place. And if you notice, the photo actually flies out and then slowly moves into the place. So let me show you once again. As you can see that, and if I deselect it, it actually comes back and add it back to the gallery, right? So these are going to be the projects that we're going to be working on. Once again, we're going to be starting from scratch. So we're going to cover all the basics about matched geometry, and then we're going to create some practical examples around that, and then we're going to create and build out this experience as the final experience for this series. Okay, so I hope you are excited as I am to actually jump right in and start coding these things and learning more about the matched geometry effect. So I will see you guys in in the course. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with our first example for the matched geometry effect. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a simple example to understand how animation actually works within SwiftUI before converting taking that experience and converting it into a matched geometry effect. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a private variable, example 1, which is going to return some view, and this is going to have an H stack with spacing of 50 points. Okay, and we need to actually somehow track if we are in the expanded or you can think of swapped state. Okay, so let's call it swapped state. I was gonna call expanded, but it's a different example, so let's go ahead and call this one swap. So private var swap. So we are if the swap is true, then we're gonna have a circle which is gonna be filled with color dot orange. Frame is gonna have width of 100 and height of 100, default value for the alignment, and then we're gonna have another circle. Okay, and this one is gonna have a fill of red color, like so. Okay, frame is gonna be the same, so with 100 100 and default. Okay, which is center. Okay, so if that is this is the case when swap is true. When the swap value is false, then I'm gonna just copy paste and change these to red and orange. Okay, now on this entire H stack, we're gonna say on tap gesture, and we're gonna add with animation block. Now with animation, we're gonna actually change the toggle swap value. Okay, so we're gonna toggle it from true to false, false to true, and let's go ahead and use that to see what kind of effect this actually gives us. So what's going to happen is basically what we are expecting to see is those colors circles swapping with each other. Okay, and so we're gonna see like how the swap happens without matched geometry effect, and then we're gonna put the matched geometry effect into place and see how the animation actually changes. Okay. All right, so I'll pause the video for this canvas, this preview to load, and then I'll resume. All right, so it took a few seconds to load this, but this is the experience that we have. So let me run, and if I tap on these, as you can see, the colors are swapping between each other, right? So that is the effect that is created right now. So how can we go about and change this into a and include matched geometry effect? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to keep this example, okay, uh, just for reference purposes, and I guess I'll actually um, yeah, I'll copy this example part and create an example 2 from this. Okay, now our H stack is going to be there, our swap condition is going to be there. There's one more variable or property wrapper rather we are going to introduce, and this property wrapper is called add namespace. Okay, now add namespace is basically a property wrapper. It's used to create global namespace for your views, and it is basically the primary way to attach your views together. Now, when we are defining the match geometry, we're going to use this property wrapper, namespace property wrapper variable that we created here, along with a unique ID that's going to pair the views together. And if you're confused, let's go ahead and create those things so we can actually look at it in action. So I'm going to say private var match animation. Okay, so this is going to be our namespace, our global namespace, which we can use to reference inside the matched geometry effect. Now, on the circles, we're going to say matched geometry effect. And if you notice, it actually takes an ID and in. So in is basically your namespace. All right, so let's go ahead and select that. Now, ID can be anything that is unique, but it has to be associated with the other value that you're gonna attach, like the provide swap animation to. So for example, this one is orange circle, so we're gonna call this orange circle for the ID. Namespace is gonna be match animation. All right, I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it for the other circle, and this one we're gonna basically say this is a red circle for the ID. Okay, and what I'm gonna do, since I already have this in the clipboard, I'm gonna create a pair in the else condition block. So for the circle that has orange color, I'm going to add this match geometry with orange circle ID. So this is the association that I'm talking about. It actually essentially creates a pair between two of these elements. Okay, rest everything else stays same. So this is all it takes to create that hero animation or matched geometry animation. Is basically a namespace, and inside your geometry effect you create an ID and associate that ID with another view. So these two views are essentially now bound together, and these two are bound together, so they're like in pair now. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this example. So example 2, I'm going to say, and hit Command Option P to resume the preview, and notice the effect now. As you can see, like now the swap is actually happening, and the whole calculation of like where the views are and where they're supposed to be and how the swap animation needs to take place, all that calculation, you don't have to worry about it. Matched geometry effect is going to basically consider that. It's basically going to do that calculation for you. Okay, so yeah, so this was the basic example for matched geometry effect. Next, let's go ahead and create a slightly complex example where we're gonna expand a cell and display a little bit more information about the view itself. Okay, all right. So in this video, we're going to be looking at another example for mesh geometry. So I'm gonna continue from the previous example that we actually covered, where we created a basic animation and then we actually converted that into a matched geometry effect. And here we're gonna create another example. So private for example 3. Okay, we're gonna create a VStack, and inside this VStack there's gonna be another VStack with a spacing of 50 points. Okay, then we're gonna have an H stack, and this H stack is going to have an image. Okay, so this image is actually something that's gonna come from the assets. So I already have few images here, and I'm actually gonna use one of the image from this asset catalog. So I've chosen Zen_1, and I'm gonna make it resizable with corner radius, and I will use the same variable, that expand, that we've been, or swap. Actually, this is swap. So let's create another one. Although this one is not gonna be any different. It's same Boolean flag expand. We're gonna call this one and set it to false. Okay, because in this case we were actually swapping. Right now we are creating an expand experience to expand the view to show more detail about it. That's why I called it expand. Okay, now we're gonna say expand. If it is true, the corner radius is going to be 150, otherwise it's going to be 22. And frame is going to have width as, if the expand is true, then it's going to be 300, otherwise it's going to be 44. Same for the height, expand is 300. If it's true, then otherwise it's 44. Okay, I'm going to add some padding at the top, and say if expand, then add some padding of about 20 points, otherwise leave it 0. Okay, now we're going to say if expand is false. Okay, in that case we want to actually show the text on the side of the image. Okay, so I'm going to say Zen photo as the side, and we're gonna add the matched geometry effect for this one, and I'm gonna give it an ID of photo, um, and then this is again gonna be in the match animation namespace, the namespace that we created here. Okay, so you can create another namespace if you want. I'm gonna use the same. It doesn't really matter. Okay, we're gonna have a font of headline for this, and we're gonna add a spacer like that. Okay, let's go ahead and see what we have so far. So let's say example 3. Okay, and resume. So what you should see is basically an image and Zen photo as the text. Okay, now what we want to do basically is we want to attach a tap gesture to this V stack. Okay, so this V stack, we're gonna attach a tap gesture, and we're gonna say with animation, and we can define the animation type. So we're gonna say is in out. Okay, and we're gonna say expand dot toggle. All right. Okay, and we will also add some padding and give it a frame. Give the frame basically max width as infinity, because we want to add a background running in horizontal line, and I'm gonna actually make this color dot white. Okay, so let's say gray color 0.2. That's perfect. Maybe 4. Let's get, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna give the foreground color, which is already black. So we're gonna give it a black color. Or actually, let's see with that. Okay, so now you have your this photo, right? If you notice, it actually does a sort of animation for you, expand animation. And what it is doing is whenever the expand is false, it's hiding the text and it's showing you the photo, right? So that is the effect that we have right now. But what we want to do is we want to move this guy down, this name of the photo down, and show some description at the bottom as well. Okay, so so the way we can actually do that is right after our H stack is closed, we're gonna say if expand. Okay, so that means if expand is true, we want to say text, and we want to display that text right here, this send photo, and I want to actually match everything. So I'm gonna just copy and paste. You could have created a separate variable to hold this value and, like, just call it here. I'm just gonna copy and paste for the demo, and we are also gonna add some padding of maybe dot bottom of about 60 points. Okay, and I'm gonna add another text, which is a multi-line text, which has, like, definition of Zen, and it has multi-text alignment as center. Okay, so what we're saying is when the expand is true, display this information. Now remember, this is outside H stack. That means it's only going to show up in V stack in vertical form, so we can actually see this like information in a vertical form. So let's go ahead and check it out. So as you can see, it's actually expanding, and you can actually see a Zen photo um, sort of like sliding into place, and your information being displayed. All right, let's see, so we can remove this padding, and yeah, so there we go. Like, we have a little bit of spacing. I'm gonna reduce this to 10. um, there we go. So we have like a little bit more information, so that's better experience. So yeah, as you can see, now you have your photo showing up, your description and everything. As soon as you tap it back, your photo snaps back in place where it came from. So it gives user more about the context, that they are actually looking at this Zen photo and they're reading the description about this photo. So yeah, so this is the mashed geometry effect. Okay, so we're gonna create a slightly complex example where we're gonna apply this into an animation, sort of like, display a whole bunch of photos in gallery form using grid, and then we're gonna make a selection to move that photo in the selected photo space. Okay, so we will cover that one next. All right, so what I have here now in our project, I've actually created two files, and there's one called photo, which is gonna hold the model information about our photo that we're gonna display, and the second file is matched geo animation, where we can actually code our solution for this match geometry animation that we're going to create. Okay, so let's go ahead and first create this struct for photo. So struct photo, this is going to conform to identifiable, and we're going to use UUID to create that unique ID, because that's actually a requirement for the identifiable, and we'll be able to use this inside our for each or list. Okay, next I'm going to create an extension to this, and this extension is going to be a static variable sample, which is going to return an array of photo. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say return from 1 to 12, and I'll show you where this is coming from. I'm going to map and create photo, and the name is Zen underscore. Okay, so $0, basically the number that's actually coming. So I need 3 dots here, and what this actually is representing, I have these photos of Zen 1 to Zen 12. So what I'm doing here is I'm looping over. So basically I'm saying 1 to 12 in this range, map photos. So create photo object and return that as an array of photos. Okay, once we have that, that actually will work as our data source that we're going to use. So going back into the animation view, we're going to create some state properties first. So state private var photos, and this is where we're going to call our photo.sample, and we're going to need another state variable to hold all the selected photos. Okay, and this is going to be empty initially, and we are also going to have a state private var a variable for selected photo ID. Okay, and selected photo ID is something that we're going to use to with the scroll view reader to scroll basically scroll to the position in the scroll view. Okay, so we're going to say selected photo ID, and this is going to be of type UID optional. Okay, now obviously this is a mesh geometry example, so we're gonna need a namespace, and we're gonna create a namespace private var photo namespace, like so. All right, now onto our body, we're gonna create a VStack first. Inside the VStack, we're gonna have a scroll view. Inside the scroll view, we're gonna have an HStack, which is going to have a text, Zen photos. Okay, let me resume the preview so we can see what's going on. And while it is loading, we can actually continue to work. So I'm going to say font is going to be title, and it is going to be bold. All right. Okay. I guess we probably not need this H stack. Okay. let's try this. Next we are going to have another text, and this one is going to be selected photos. Okay, and I'm gonna have font as title 3. For the foreground color, we're gonna give it a white color and make this bold. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna give this whole okay, so here we can actually need an yeah, we can actually add a frame in this. Max width infinity. Okay, and we're gonna give it some padding in vertical direction for about maybe 10 points. Let's see. Okay, that's perfect. And we'll give it a background color dot black dot opacity 0.8 or 5. Okay, perfect. All right. Let me take out the bold on this. Okay, that's nice. All right. So this is our section that we have created. Now we are going to have a scroll view reader, and inside this, so this gives us a proxy, scroll proxy. So we're going to say scroll proxy in, and we're going to create our scroll view here. Now this scroll view is going to be a horizontal scroll. Okay, and we're going to say shows indicator. It's going to be false for this scroll view. All right, and inside this guy we are going to show a lazy H grid. So lazy H grid, right? And for the rows we are going to say simply going to be grid item with default initialized. Okay, um, and then I'm gonna create a for each on our selected photos. Okay, we don't have any right now, but when we do, it's actually gonna loop over each photo and it's gonna display them. So I'm gonna display that in the image or photo. All right, I'm gonna make this resizable. Okay, let me go ahead and build. Right, image cannot convert. Yes, that's going to be photo.name then. That is the mistake. Okay, scaled to fill. There we go. Frame. We're gonna have min width as 0, so we can actually have max width as well as infinity. Okay, and then we're gonna define a frame with height as well of about 100 points. Corner radius is going to be 3 points. Let me go ahead and build again. Okay, build succeeds. Excuse me. For the ID, we are going to give it a photo.id. The photo that we are getting, it has an ID property, so we're going to assign that. And for matched geometry, matched geometry, the ID is going to be photo.id. Okay, and namespace is going to be photo namespace. And on tapping, on basically on tap, we need to say photos dot append photo. Okay. Um, all right. And then we're gonna say if let index is equal to selected photos dot first index, where id is equal to photo dot id. So currently current index is item, the selected photos first index item is equal to the photo id. Okay, in that case, so it's a closure. All right, so where, sorry, this one is, let me fix the okay, so let me fix this. This guy dot first index, there we go. Where, yeah, that's perfect, where $0.id is photo dot id. Okay, if that is the case, then selected photo dot remove at index. Okay, so essentially what we are doing is whenever let's see, all right, if let index selected photos dot first index is this, then selected photos to remove at index. All right, so let me go ahead and build this. All right, let's take a look. Variable binding in a condition requires an initializer. All right, so that doesn't help much. All right, okay, so here's the issue. It should not be equal, it should be equal. Okay, right. So what's happening here is basically whenever you tap in that section where we have, like, where we are showing the selected photos, right here we're gonna show, whenever you tap on a photo, we're gonna actually add that photo into the collection, photos collection, and then remove it from that selected space. So basically, essentially deselecting that item and moving it back into the gallery. Okay, so that's what this section is doing. Okay, all right. So let's continue forward. What we're going to do is, let's see where we have, like, scroll view. Ending of scroll view is right here. Okay, yeah, so we're gonna give this guy a frame, and the frame is gonna be height 100. Okay, and let me go ahead and resume the build now, so you can see at least the outline where things are being drawn. And we're gonna add some padding, and we're gonna give it a background, and maybe, like, color dot gray. Let's set the opacity to 0.2 or something. Okay, that's perfect. And then we're gonna give it a corner radius of about 6 points, and we're gonna apply an on change observer on it. So on change of selected photo ID, we need to perform basically something. So we're gonna say guard ID or value is not equal to nil, else return. So we're going to make sure that we are getting something, because this guy selected photo ID is a null type, right? So we know once we are getting the value, we're gonna say scroll proxy dot scroll to that value, that ID that we are getting. Okay. All right. Okay. So once we have that, this is where our scroll view reader is gonna close. So we're gonna add some padding on that. There we go. Okay. So this is our selected photos area. Okay. And now we're gonna create um, another text, and this text is gonna be uh, we're gonna call this gallery. So gallery, and this is where we're gonna show our gallery items. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this guy right here and paste, because it's gonna be all the same modifiers. Um, and then we are going to basically have another lazy grid. So this time we're gonna say lazy V grid. We want a vertical grid, and for the columns, I'm gonna say it's going to be an array of grid items of adaptive type, and adaptive type only needs minimum. If you don't want to specify the maximum value, you can simply remove that. Okay, so that is perfectly fine. And then we're gonna create the content, and content is gonna be for each. So we're gonna have a for each, and we're gonna iterate over our photos. Okay, so photos we're gonna iterate over, and we're gonna get a photo out of this. And now this photo is gonna be, once again, we're gonna say photo dot name. Let's make it resizable. Let's give it scale to fill. Let's define a frame with min width as 0 and max width um, as infinity. And then we're gonna give it a frame with height of 100, corner radius of about 10 points. We're gonna apply the match geometry once again. Now this is how we are actually providing the association between two values. So match geometry for the photo ID is gonna be same as this one. So this guy right here. So this is gonna create the pair between two. All right, and then we're gonna say on tap. And if you're paying attention to the right hand side of the screen, you're gonna see all of our images are being populated. Okay, so selected photos, and this time we're gonna do opposite. Like, we're gonna do something similar. So we're gonna say selected photos dot append the selected the photo that you have tapped on, or user has tapped on. We're gonna append that into photos. We're gonna say selected photo ID is equal to photo dot ID. Okay, and we're gonna say if let index single equal, this time photos dot first index, and we're gonna define our closure. We're gonna say $0 dot ID is equal to photo dot ID. Okay, if that index we can grab it, then we're gonna remove the photo from photos. Remove that photo from photos. Okay. All right. So what we're gonna essentially do here is we're gonna remove that item from here and move it here. When you remove it from this section, we're gonna move it back here. All right. Okay. So what I want to do is since we have a lot of photos, let me go ahead and reduce this. All right. So I'm gonna say 80 and maybe 60. Okay, so that's okay. Let's do 60. Yeah, that's perfect. 60 and yeah, 60 and 60 is good. Okay, so let me go ahead and run this example. and let's go ahead and see if as soon as this gets loaded, there we go. So we have our selected area and the gallery, and I'm gonna tap on this, and as you can see, the things are getting added, and they are moving, but there is no animation, right? Okay, so this is the time when we actually gonna apply the animation, and we'll see the whole animation effect. So basically match geometry is going on, but since we have not applied the animation, we are actually seeing that zappy behavior. Okay, so we're gonna add some padding for this guy, and wherever our scroll view is ending. So this is where our scroll view is ending, and this is where our VStack is ending. We're gonna add animation now. Now this animation is gonna be ease in and out, and initially let me give you a rather large animation duration so you can see the animation in motion, in a slow motion. Okay, so let's go ahead and resume this, and there we go. So as you can see, things are moving in place. It's expanding and taking in this space. If I move it back, okay, so preview crashed here. Go ahead and reduce this because it's like very slow. Okay, let's try it again. All right, so wait for it to load, and there we go. So we have added one, and I'm gonna move it back. So as you can see how your views are, like, your matched geometry effect is playing that role, and you're sort of like moving your items here, and then you're like you can move them back into the grid with that transition. So now since you have seen, we're gonna change this duration to 0.5, and let's go ahead and see it in uh, a little bit like slightly faster speed. So right, that's perfect. All right, so yeah, so this is it about the matched geometry. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in another series.